Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today, we have one of the most recognizable pistols in the industry, the Desert Eagle, which happens to be a favorite pistol of my favorite actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's used them in several of his movies. In fact, I believe his movie Commando was the first time the Desert Eagle was seen on screen. This particular one is the 50 Action Express. We're going to talk a little bit about the calibers. This is the most powerful semi-automatic pistol in the world. Still to this day, even with some of the advances in other cartridges, the 50 Action Express is second only to the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum for power. And the fact that this is in a semi-automatic pistol is rather incredible. We're going to go over a little bit of the history of the Desert Eagle. It started off probably around in the 80s with a company called Magnum Research. Magnum Research did the development work on it, but I don't think it really had the capabilities to refine it. So from there it went to IMI, or Israeli Military Industries. The first pistol was developed in the .357 caliber, just .357 Magnum. Now, when you fire this gun in a .357 Magnum, it is a pussycat. It is a complete pussycat to shoot. It was also developed in the .41 Magnum. Now, the .41 Magnum did not last very long. It did not really have a lot of champions. You compare that to the .41 to the .44, recoil, all that in the Desert Eagle pistol, it made no sense, to go with the .41 Magnum. The .44 Magnum is by far the most popular of all the calibers. It is, again, it's a pussycat when you compare this to firing my Model 29 Smith & Wesson .44 with a similar length barrel. The recoil on this thing is a lot less due to the fact that it's gas operated. It's a heavy pistol. The 50 caliber Action Express was developed as the most powerful semi-automatic pistol cartridge in the industry. That cartridge is strong enough to take about any game in North America. I don't know if I would really want to go after an elk or a moose with it, but for as far as anything, medium, large game, dangerous game, not so much. If you were a hunter up in Alaska and you wanted something to defend yourself against a Kodiak grizzly, here's your gun. Now, recoil-wise, is not for the faint-hearted. Firing one box is fine. You start getting in 2, 3, 4 boxes, this thing can hurt. Now, you can fire it one-handed, not recommended, but as you'll see when we do the shooting aspect of this, I did shoot it one-handed. It's a very, very accurate pistol. You just got to get over that muzzle blast and that noise. Now, there are other versions of this. There are other calibers as well as other finishes. You'll see, this is the black. You'll see stainless steel, shiny stainless steel. You'll see some titanium color. You'll see some goldish color. Look like pimp guns. There's a lot of different configurations you can get for as far as color is concerned. Now, some of the newer models has the 1913 rail not only on the top but on the bottom as well. This is probably one generation ago as to what they have out right now. Currently, these are made in Minnesota. Magnum Research Company in Minnesota. They were made in Israel for a while. Now they're doing a lot of work here in the United States with it. Not a cheap pistol. You're looking at over $2,000, to say the least. This is a very heavy machine pistol, and it's very unique in the way that it cycles as well, which we're going to go over. This is a single action only, so there's no decocker. You have a manual safety on the top, slide mounted manual safety, single action, 2-stage trigger. Now, the one thing I will say about this has a firing pin block safety. That was sort of necessary to make it compliant to our brothers and sisters in occupied California, which is one of the requirements to be able to have a pistol, which you can buy in California. So it does have a firing pin block, so that's an excellent safety enhancement on it. Relatively simple the way that it's manufactured and the way that it operates. It operates very similar to that of a 1911, just change the location of the safety. Magazine holds 7 rounds of 50 caliber Action Express. The magazines are not compatible between the 44 Magnum 57 and the 50A. They are different. Now, talking a little bit more about the cartridge, the 50 Action Express, the case head on this is the exact same diameter as that of a 44 Magnum. So if you wanted to take this pistol and convert it from 44 Magnum to 50 or from 50 to 44, you would be able to do so by just changing the barrel out. You wouldn't have to change the bolt head. To go to 37 Magnum, obviously you have a much smaller diameter cartridge case rim, so that's not compatible. The cartridge fires, this is Hornady. This is probably the most popular ammunition out there in this caliber. This fires a 300 grain projectile about 1,475 feet a second. It's cooking. It is a powerful, potent cartridge. Many of these pistols do come ported as well. I'm sure porting would help this pistol out quite a bit. It certainly would help with its noise. You also see in the video, you'll see the enormous muzzle flash that you get out of this thing. But this is an extremely potent cartridge. This is one of their XTP type projectiles. So quite a bit of strength to pull it back. Looking at the bolt, you'll see the bolt has a very interesting look to it. This is not your typical blowback or delayed blowback. This is a rotating bolt very similar to that of the AR-15 M16. It locks into a barrel extension, again, like the M16. For the kind of pressures that you're dealing with here, you need a very strong locking mechanism. You have a full open injection port similar to that of the Beretta. This one has just typical sights on it. You'll also see there's a piston in here. This is a gas-operated pistol. It utilizes gas to operate it. When we take it apart, we're going to look a little bit more closely at that because this is a very unique system. The barrel on here is a cold hammer forged polygon-type rifling. In fact, when you look down this barrel, you can't even tell how many lands and grooves there are. It's how smooth it is. So it has the shallow rifling. So between the rifling and being gas-operated, you do not want to fire lead ammunition in this pistol. Two reasons. One, you'll get the lead deposits in the barrel that can cause an obstruction, cause the gun to blow up. And also the lead will get into the gas port, clog the gas port, and you will have malfunctions, and it will not be easy to clean. Even with gas checks, I recommend against it. Many years ago, when I was younger, one of the kids at the gun club had one, and they hit a 44 Desert Eagle, and he insisted that you could shoot lead in it. He was doing it and never thought that it was safe. He even downloaded these things to more of a 44 special load. This is not that choosy on ammunition for as far as its propellant charge. You got a very wide open you have a very wide open gas port on this, so it pretty much will take anything that you put into it. But that's a big no-no putting anything in here that's lead. You want to stick with the jacketed cartridge, regardless of what caliber you have, the 37 Magnum, the 44 Magnum, or the 50 Action Express. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing apart and we're going to talk about the gas system. This assembly, sort of similar to that of a Beretta. You push the disassembling latch release button, rotate downward on the disassembling latch, pull forward, pop the barrel right out. Slide will come right off. You have dual recoil springs. You can also see these are braided. There's two different recoil springs on here. The outer one is the braided, and you have a more of a rocket type wire in the center. On top of the guide rod, as you can see, it's captive. What you see here is your piston. The gas comes in from the front to push back. Rotate that and pull that right out. Now looking a little closer into here, you can see the firing pin block as such. And the way the bolt locks into position, you have a spring-loaded plunger here. When that pushes into place, the barrel is allowed to lock. When it unlocks, it is depressed by the slide, pushes inward on the plunger to allow it to move into the lock position. This is as far as you want to disassemble it. You don't want to go any further than this. But you can see the extractor, it's very, very aggressive. And again, this bolt will handle both the 44 Magnum as well as the 50 Action Express. Now, to look at the gas system. Unlike conventional unloading rifles, where the gas is bled in the front and comes rearward, not so with this. Gas here is bled directly from the chamber, and it goes into a channel underneath here, and then it impacts the piston. What that does is it gives it an extra dwell time, the time it takes the gas to go all the way down the gas port. And you need that with this because the propellants that you're using in here are Magnum pistol propellants. Magnum pistol propellants burn slower than your average propellant used like in a 9mm 40 or 45. So you need to keep this thing closed a little bit longer because you have a longer burn. So that affects the timing of the gas system as well. Again, gas port is here, a channel under here, comes down here, impacts the slide, knocks it to the rear. You will see the Mill Standard 1913 rail on here. I'd be curious to see what kind of optics would hold up to this thing because this is a pretty violent operating pistol. This is a steel receiver. You can see relatively simple. It's a simple single action mechanism. Shown here is the disconnector. So once the hammer is forward, the slide comes back, pushes downward. and cocks the hammer back to the rear. Very, very, very simple. Overbuilt, of course, to deal with these particular cartridges. And it didn't get too dirty. The barrel itself got dirty, but the rest of it stayed relatively clean. And that's really all there is to this pistol. It's, again, very simple. Ammunition is extremely expensive on the 50 caliber Action Express. It's probably a couple bucks a round, at least. And it's not mainstream. For as far as production, the most common ammunition is going to come out of Hornady. Now, for quite some time there, it was manufactured by Samson, which is Israeli, and there are some other companies that make it as well. It's excellent for hunting. You know, when you watch Schwarzenegger on television with it, it's funny how you know, one-handed and there's no recoil to it. That's how blanks are. You start putting live rounds in these things, it's not really that controllable. But you know, Schwarzenegger, he's sort of like with Desert Eagle, like Clint Eastwood was for Smith & Wesson. His movies made this pistol, and his continuation of using them as well. You know, he used them in his, again, her first movie you saw it in was Commando, and then you saw it in many of his movies since, including my favorite one, Last Action Hero. He used it in Red Heat as well. But it's always been sort of his trademark, just like, you know, same thing with Bruce Willis in Die Hard and Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon series. It's amazing how a television series can really, or a movie series can really put a product on the map, which is exactly what they did. Reassembly. You're going to insert the piston back into the slide. Now you want to make sure that the flat is facing out, because what you're going to do is you're going to put this little tit on the recoil spring guide in that location. Slide onto the rails. And as we pull the slide back, we're going to drop in the barrel assembly. Push the button, rotate the latch back. And there we have it. Extremely heavy, very overbuilt, but you're looking at the most powerful semi-automatic pistol in the world here. It beats out the Casull, it beats out everything short of the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. So then what we're going to do now is we're going to take this out to the range, and we're going to see how this beast shoots. As you saw from the firing, you got massive flames, you got massive recoil, you got massive power. It's not for the faint-hearted. It definitely has its place for hunting. You know, if I was hunting in Alaska, this would be the first thing I'd have on my side. There's no question. I do want to do a call out to Hunter Rifle Works. Dave let me borrow this so we can do a video on it, and I definitely want to put out a thanks to him. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.